Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm ZOB and I partner with you to maximize your children's potentials. And today we're going to be talking about effective discipline strategies. This is just an introduction, and it's important for us to have the right mindset while we think about disciplining our children. Because when you don't have the right mindset, what happens is that um, you don't get the results you expect. All right. So, what is discipline? From the dictionary, there are two definitions of discipline, just like any word that has two or dual meanings, okay? Or dual or more meanings to that word. That's just the same way discipline is. So, the first meaning of discipline is punishment, and the second meaning of discipline is training. Okay, so that we need to know. Now, the punishment type of discipline is what we have come to know in our world so much. And what happens is that this kind of discipline produce compliance. Okay, so you use fear of punishment to get your children to do stuff, or when your children get to remember that, hey, mom is going to spank me really hard about that, they decide, they try not to do that thing, right? So it's like, yeah, I did it. At least he respects me. But you know what? In that instant, what happens is that the child is not actually becoming. What the child is doing is just complying because of fear. So in some cases, it doesn't turn out to be compliance, it turns out to be rebel. So the child becomes rebellious and, like whatever, if you like, they will flog till they tire. You know, like what has been going on social media. Okay, like last 2 weeks, a girl who, for those of us who don't know the story, who was sent out of school because of school fees, and apparently somebody approached her when she was going back home, and it was like, what do you prefer? Did you prefer them to have flogged you in school, or you going back? And she was like that she prefers to be flogged. Fine, that showed the passion for the child wanting to go to school. But on the other hand, that child has become toughened. Okay, so she care less about flogging, if you like, flog her. And some of us grew up like that. I really preferred my parents flogging me than even talking to me, because sometimes those talks were just like, you know, squeezing the bread out of my neck. I used to feel so choked up with those talks that were endless and just full of nagging. And so sometimes I just prefer to be beaten, or sometimes I was toughed on beating. So whatever, let them beat. So some of us have experienced that, and we don't want to get to that part, because sometimes what happens when you are a parent and you feel that your child is trying to confront your authority, or trying to make mess of you, especially in public or something. You just want to, like, show them. And when you beat a little, the little spanking is not working. You begin to increase it. When that one is not working, you increase it. And some people turn into something else, turn into something else. They beat with all sorts of things, belt hangers and all of that, because you find out that your emotions takes over, and you become terrible. You just flog them anywhere, beat them. All you want to do is that you want them to get it. Eventually, when the child has started becoming rebellious, you want them to feel the pain. If you're trying to say that it's not paining you, okay, you will feel that pain today. So we really don't need to go into all that, because what you're doing is digging, that kind of pit that it will be hard to come out of. Honestly, to be hard when your child is a teenager and he feels that or she feels that you have no right to speak to them, then you will really see them in action. Then you will really know what you have created all this while. Um, so this is just so important that we know this in our homeschool. This is one of the things that can frustrate you in parenting. If you don't know what to do, if you don't know what to expect, you don't know what to think, it can really, really um, frustrate you. So now, what kind of discipline are we talking about now? I'm talking about the training kind of discipline, and that is going to be our focus. Remember when I talked about Charlotte Mason, I said that she believes one of her philosophies that education is a discipline, education is life, and education is an atmosphere. Very, very important. In fact, they all go together to form the strength of training or education and even discipline. You know, the education being an atmosphere, training is means that you need to use your environment to help educate your children. The environment has to do with your voice, your tone of voice, has to do with your composure. It has to do with role modeling, the way you speak to your spouse, the way you speak to your children, the way you do things, the way you speak to the neighbors, the way you do your stuff has to do with all that. Now, we can put, we can say education and training are synonyms, right? So, training is a discipline. So, we have come back to that. And when we look at the root word of discipline, it's disciplina, and it's a Latin word. It's important to really think about this in critically, because even in Bible days, you find out that there was that Jesus was raised disciples, and we'll find out there's something called discipleship, and that's what we are called to do to our children. These days it's called more of mentoring, coaching, and all of that. But we are called to really disciple our children. What is this discipling or mentorship about? You want to create, somebody that will be a legacy in life, that will live after you and be a legacy. So it's so important that we make sure that our children are becoming what we expect. Not just compliance, not just, oh, I told you not to touch it and you did not touch it. You respect me. Goodness, if your child touches that thing when you're not there, then he does not respect you. All you did or got was compliance because of fear. I learned this lesson, a little difficult, in a difficult way, or in a hard way. There was a day where my son, my usual practice was to, when he does something wrong, I will talk to him, speak with him, or just tell him to cool off somewhere, just sit down for some minutes and just think. Or tell him to do something, to apologize, maybe to the brother, to find a creative way to do that, to apologize and all of that. But this day I had gotten me up to here, kind of, I was really feeling like fatigued and all of that. And he kept on repeating these things. So what I told him to do was to kneel down and raise his hand. So after a while, he started to cry. I'm like, Mommy, please, I'm sorry. Please, I want to stand up. I said, okay, stand up and come. And he came and I gave him a hug and I spoke with him. That looks very good. Like, yeah, after you finish punishing the child, then you can talk to the child, let the child know what he did wrong, have a chat and all of that. But what happens in that instance is that when you speak to your child, after you have punished them or after you have beaten or shouted and all of that, what happens is that you will not have the thinking brain to deal with. Now, there's the thinking brain and the emotional brain. So it's so important that we are talking to and speaking to the thinking brain. That's the one that understands stuff. The emotional brain does not understand, or just thinking about saving his life. He's thinking about, hey, escape. That's what he's thinking about. So when you activate that, whatever you're telling your child after that is empty. They are just thinking survival. Okay, there's a part of the brain called the amygdala. So it's for survival. Is that reflex is the one that governs reflex. So your child is thinking at that moment, oh, how do I save my head? So now let me continue my story. So I called him and I just gave him a hug by the side and squeezed him, and I'm like, so now why shouldn't you do what you did anymore? And my son's response was, so that I don't get punished. And I was like, my God. I felt so terrible at that point. And I'm like, I felt God was teaching me something really deep and something to share. So I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly what it is. So I was speaking to his emotional because I have activated his emotional brain. So he was thinking survival, like save your head. The reason why he won't do it again was just because he was afraid to be punished, not because he understood that he was hurting his brothers and he shouldn't do that. Okay? So it's so important. So we can say that it's so important that we really know what we are doing when we are talking about discipline. Okay, so where should you start in all of this? Where should we begin in all of this discipline thinking? What exactly? Where should we begin? I always say that you have to begin with you, because really the person that you can change is you. And the fact is that what operates in adults, because we say this as adults, okay, you cannot change anyone, you can't change your spouse. It also happens with children. You really cannot change your child, but you can influence them to change. So the whole work is it has to do with you. It has to start with you. So you really need to work yourself. Work on yourself. Make sure you work on yourself. Sometimes it's a case of fatigue. Sometimes it's a case of we don't know how to calm down. We don't know how to address our emotions. Our emotions are all about, sometimes it's about, you feeling depressed, you feeling unhappy, you having issues maybe with your spouse, and you just throw it on your children. On a good day, your children will jump on you and you are okay with it, even though they use their head to head you and it was painful. You will just talk to them and say, you know what, you just hit me and that's so painful. And they will apologize. But this day, when they do it because of some other external factors, you just flare up, you hit back, and all of that. Okay? You must always understand that you are role modeling something, even at the place of discipline, even at the place of correction, even at the place of interaction with your children, or even the wrong things they do. Okay? So you should know your role modeling, especially your role modeling emotional intelligence. So some of us wonder why our children are not emotionally intelligent. They're the first to hit, they're the first to refuse to interact with people properly, and all of that. You're wondering. Some of it is from us or the adults in their life. So when we keep on doing this, the cycle will continue to repeat itself. So when they grow up they become parents that can't handle their emotions, and that's how it goes on and goes on like that. you know okay, so it's so important that we know we need to start with ourselves. And sometimes we always understand that, okay, this boundary, if it's for my boss, there's a boundary there. Like, for example, your boss cannot just come and hit your head because you did something wrong. Think about it. So why should we just come and hit our child's head or get the cane out because they did something wrong? So we really need to think it deeply. you know we really need to think it deeply when we take some of these actions. The next thing is to prepare the environment. Let the environment be your tool. Let the environment be your tool. Okay? Just like what Charlotte Mason said, education, which we are going to put training there, training is an atmosphere. So you need to have that atmosphere. As a mentor, like for me, I catch a lot. I don't need to ask you questions. I catch. So, and I think that's so important. And a lot of people do that. We catch from the system, even negative things. So we really need to be careful. A lot of us has caught a lot of things from Facebook. You don't know who taught you, but you know how to navigate. You know when a new application is out, a new feature is out on Facebook. You find out people are using it, you start using it. You just catch it. And you go check your own and see how to use it. You understand? So it's very important that our environment is teaching something. Don't just be careless with your words. Don't just be careless with your reaction to your children because you know you're angry. And when you do that, when you fall short, because it will happen. It still happens to me. So when I fall short, I'm humble enough to say, oh, you know what? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about that. Your child has caught something again that you can do wrong and feel really sorry from within about it, and stop making excuses or just trying to because of pride. No. Okay, so that's so important. You must know that your environment is your tool. And of course, the next thing is education, training is life. Don't always separate it that, okay, there are teachable moments all the time. Like what we are saying, use your environment. There are teachable moments. So use the moment your child is doing something wrong as a teachable moment. Okay, so you can just make sure that you say something. Sometimes the problem is always with what we are saying. Many of us nag, shout, and we don't say anything. So when your child is at a moment of thinking, reminiscing, all they hear is stop it, stop it, stop it. All they hear is don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. And do you know what? Don't do that does not bring understanding. Yeah. It's even been proven that when your children, you're saying don't do, stop climbing, or don't do, when you say stop, like something like stop climbing, what the child is often hearing is climbing, climbing, climbing. So you are actually reinforcing the negative behavior. So once we have some of this knowledge, don't you see that you're going to be better? I always tell people discipline is not really about what is happening afterwards, but what is happening before. Okay? So this discipline is not something, it's not often what happens or what a child merits when they do wrong, but it's more about what they merit before they do wrong. It's our duty to prevent our children, from just, being exposed to unnecessary wrongdoings just because of our carelessness. A lot of us don't even understand. We still stop children from doing things like climbing and all of that. Things are very reflex that whatever it is, the child will still climb. Except you have curbed them. I entered into a house some time ago, and the children were so calm, well behaved. They sat down, but I could see in their eyes fear. I could see a situation where they must have really scolded them if you move. I went with other children there because we went for something there. And these children were so cold. They hardly spoke. They hardly moved. Their eyes, you could see in their eyes that somebody has scared them. That somebody has so scared them. So we don't want that. So they are compliant. They didn't move and anything. And it also hindered their learning, because while others were answering questions, others were interacting, with others were touching, exploring the environment. They were just there. There were three of them from the same family that were just there, and you could see fear in their eyes. So many of us don't want that. We're not saying children should be destructive and overly, but you need to train that, not by scaring them. You need to train it and observe them and remind them and reinforce it. So it's so important. Okay? It's so important. So we have established that discipline is more about training. What are you training? What are you training? And that's why I find homeschooling so interesting. Because the focus on habit training by Charlotte Mason really changed my life. Because I'm more about teaching my children, deliberately, picking one habit at a time and teaching them how to lay their beds, how to talk to people, how to move around, how to, make up when you do wrong, how to be emotionally intelligent, how to do chores. Some of us complain about so many things our children don't do right. But think about it. Have you really trained them? Train them just the way you will have taught them ABCD and their sounds and all of that. How you will have repeated it overly and overly again. How some of us trained our children on potty training. When the child made a mistake, you still come back and, teach them what to do. Although some of us beat children doing that, which is so wrong, because when it has to do with wee, poo, all those things are very reflexive. So it has to do, don't turn your child to something else. You want to really be sensitive. So many of us were patient enough to follow our children through and keep on bringing up that thing until they mastered it. Because in the beginning, it looked as if it's impossible for the child to ever master potty training, but it came true. And some of us were even proactive. So we started with things like, teaching the child how to know the toilet and all of that, making sure that you only potty train when the child can communicate effectively to you, can tell you, can understand, can control better, So some of us are that intentional before we start. So we record more success, with the potty training. We record more success with the potty training. So another thing that we need to really understand is the how of discipline. You need to be calm. Okay, you need to be calm as much as possible. It's not easy, when you have been reactive and all of that, but you want to tell yourself, first of all, that's why this segment is more about your mindset. I'm trying to change your mindset from that thinking. If your mindset is changed, if you're having a paradigm shift, it will help you. Because like I said, some of us, no matter what your boss does to you, you will not shout on that boss, because you might be fired. I went to a private university, and there was something very, very, very strong there. You do not fight. If you fight, you are going home. Simple. You do not fight. If you fight, just know that go inside, pack your things. Tomorrow you are going home. You are going to be suspended for a term, for a semester. So just know that one is non-negotiable. So if you fight, just fight. So people know, no matter how people are raging, they will hold themselves. There was a day, something happened. Two ladies were fighting, and we all came out and were looking at them. They were fighting, like, first of all, it was insults. They were insulting themselves, blah, 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 blah. And soon after, there was exchange of, blow and all of that. And immediately they saw the proprietress, sorry, is it proprietress? Preceptor, sorry, that's what we used to call it. So immediately they saw the preceptor, what they did was to start hugging, because the preceptor was looking from afar. They were upstairs, the preceptor was downstairs, far away. So, but the preceptor just stood to understand what was going on. Do you know these people started hugging and they started gisting? The whole thing changed. All of us that were onlooking, that hadn't seen the preceptor, were wondering whether somebody was not. But that is it. So people know how to. I'm just trying to say, when you understand something, when you know your barriers, when you know this thing will not go, that's why I really go to make people understand the why you should not be doing this thing. So when you understand that, you will have a paradigm shift. You begin to know that this thing doesn't pay. In fact, it will give you chaff in the end. So why? You think you have been training children all these years. People say things like this, that, forget to. Why are you disturbing yourself? This thing is just for you to be praying. I believe in prayers and I pray for my children. But I believe that God also will not come and raise your children for you. You have to raise your children. He will give you wisdom. So you pray for wisdom. You pray for understanding, that you're able to understand the children, their needs, their wants. You're able to understand those things. Then you begin to work towards it. Because He will not come down to do it for you. So it's important that we know that God will not come down to do it for you. So I need to do it. I need to do something. I need to do something about it. So if you know that you need to do something about it, you need to, plan it and begin to train them, to do that. So when you're having this paradigm shift, you find out that, okay, this is my boundary. I should not do this because it doesn't bring anything more than compliance, which tomorrow will just fizzle out. When your child is a teenager, people keep on complaining about teenagers, but that's it. So when people tell me things like, Z, don't worry, just be praying, because there are people that have gone ahead of you. They did it with their children, and yet the children are what they are today. They are not doing well. They are still doing this. They are pastors' children. This. They give all sorts of example. They were intentional parents and all of that. So I always ask the question in that are you sure they were intentional parents? Because I know it works. And I tell them too that don't be afraid. Always go and look for people that is working for. Me, I've seen some people and I'm looking at them. So go and look for those that is working for. Don't be looking at the one that he did not work for, because there might be some things that is hidden from you that you don't know. So, you don't know. So go and look for the one that is working for and learn what they are doing. Because success can be reproduced. So I don't let those type of things deter me. I continue, and trusting God that my seeds will yield fruit. My seeds will yield fruit. So another thing is that we need to be very sensitive with our children. The how of discipline. You need to be sensitive. Know their needs. Sometimes a toddler is crying and all of that. You say it's tantrum. That child might be hungry, even though you know that he has eaten just now. But he might still be hungry. So it's a need. So until you address that need, that thing will not go away. And meanwhile, you think, oh, you beat him, he kept quiet. You have beaten him, you kept quiet. Clap for yourself. But you have starved a child. You have taught a child how insensitive you are. Do you understand? So what you want to do in that scenario is teach the child, always tell the child at that moment, as that child is crying, say, you don't need to cry, speak to mommy. What's the matter? If the child doesn't have words, you can begin with, are you hungry? Do you want to sleep? All the things that you know that might be. But when the child has started talking and he wants to use cry as method of speaking to you, which my children know I frown at seriously, because I'm trying to build them to be emotionally intelligent. So I tell them, you know what? You're not going to get that thing if you don't do it. In our family, the way we do it now. Do we shout, we crying all about? And you see somebody will just start talking. I say, okay, good. So you want this? Fine, fantastic. I love what you did just now because you have made me know. So when we communicate better as a family, now I'm talking to my children. When we communicate better, our mommy will know how you feel, and you will know how mommy feels. So that's why sometimes mommy will just tell you, oh, now my head is really splitting and I don't want to shout, because I know that if I stretch myself too long, I might just scream at you people, and you don't like it, right? They say yes, they don't like it. I say, okay, so just give me 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Let me just cool off, take a shower, and just close my eyes for some minutes. Okay, so it's so important to, know yourself too, and also be sensitive to you and be sensitive to your children. Your child is climbing. It's an impulsive behavior. Also be knowledgeable. Know what to expect in the different ages. Be knowledgeable. So that So your child is climbing. Like a woman was telling me, he said, I beat my son. And I said, why? Well, like he likes to climb. And that thing is too dangerous. I'm like, oh my God. That child knows his development more than you. But if you follow their lead, it will help you. So what you do in that instance is to, like we've iterated this over and over again in creating an atmosphere for learning, is to help them with safety. Because at that time they don't even know what is wrong or bad and all of that, to help them with safety so that they can do those things without getting injured. Lead your child with knowledge. It's so important. You need to lead your child with knowledge. Okay? Many use things like rewards, punishment, consequences. But often than not, especially when those things are not, those things the child becomes very dependent on them sometimes. So they're always looking out for stickers. They want, they're always looking out for stickers, and you're also getting them compliant with consequences. So they're always thinking, oh, what's the consequence? This is the consequence. I'm not going to do it. So you are getting compliance more than a self-disciplined child. Okay? So what happens is that it's more of talking and more of you being proactive, intentional from your end, to the child. Understanding the child, understanding what's going on, and see how you can reinforce whatever training that you have done. So number one, how it works is that you need to be knowledgeable. Number two, you really need to be knowledgeable so that you can lead your child. And number two, you really need to be sensitive to the children and be sensitive to yourself. Okay, lead yourself first. You need to lead yourself first. Another thing is that you need to train your children. You need to train them. Have a giant list. There's something your child always does. Anytime visitors have come, he'll be looking at the food that you gave the visitors or looking at the drink. You understand? So, and all you do is just threaten him. Once they go, I will flog you. Once they go out, the truth is that you have not trained anything. All they know is once they go, they'll flog you. So what they understand is fear. They will flog me. Not why shouldn't I do this? Why not? What else can I do in replace of this? Because when you are doing habit training, you want to know that you are replacing bad behavior with good ones. Because the truth is that you need to replace them. You can't just say stop. Even you as an adult, if you say stop without replacing it with a good one, you would still do it. So you want to distract them, tell them the things they can do in replacement of that. Okay? For in that instance, if you see a adult drink, you want some, come and meet mommy. We'll find something to do about it. You don't need to look there. come and tell me how you feel. Mommy, I really like this juice. It looks nice. Can I have some? Okay. But you've had some today, so why we'll make it tomorrow. All right. So you are even knowing your child, not by the time you just tell the child, I will punish you when this person goes. That's all we say. Okay. So it's very important that we train the children. Then after training, we need to reinforce. So maybe a child forgets and he's already gravitating. You find maybe a quote or something to remind them, something that can produce understanding. So you remind them, okay, you know what we do, or will you like some? Or maybe really like some will not sit well, so that you don't reinforce that. But you say hello, you know maybe you have told him that that's what you will say to remind him next time. So you're like, hello, you call your child's name, and maybe you walk towards the kitchen and he knows he's meant to follow you, something like that. And you get to ask him the question, do you want some? You know what I told you. If you want some, come tell me. I don't want that looking at somebody's drink or hovering around that place. Okay? All right. So, yeah, you need to reinforce it. So, on different levels, on different things, you need to find a way to reinforce these things so that it will stick. Because the truth is that when your children are just conformists, by the time they get to teenage years, like it's been said, you burn once you burn the material, you'll be able to see what it's made of. So for example, if you put paper in fire, you will see ashes. If you put gold in fire, you will see the gold shine. So you get to know the stuff that you have been doing for all these years. And so many people get disappointed because they feel they've told the child, stop doing that thing like 1 million times, and that child is still doing it. So the child is just conforming. When you're not there, then it's empty. But when you're training the child, what you're producing is what? Self-discipline. So the child is getting to understand. And that's why you should have quotes, things that will produce understanding. When the child is reminiscing or meditating, or it's coming back when the child is growing older, it will make sense. It will produce understanding. Okay? It will produce understanding. So it's very important. Let me just quickly share this as I end so that you know Zainab is not just up there in the world, and that maybe some things don't happen to me. My children are the best children on block. That's why I'm talking like this. No, children are under us to be trained by us. So don't feel ruffled. When you see things, don't make somebody grandma's eyes make you to just spank your child's head anyhow because grandma is there, and they will say the child is rude. I can remember when my mom stayed with me on Mughal times. She'd be like, I don't understand this new age way of raising children. But these days, she comments on my post like, you people are the ones that are bringing the new this thing. So sometimes they will not understand. You can't expect them to. We are generations apart. But the fact is, we really need to understand what we are doing and know why we are doing it. I'm not saying that because you should apply training, then you should just be allow your children just to be naughty everywhere. No, that's not what I'm saying. You are intentional, so you are going to take that thing that they are doing wrong and write it down. Then make sure you put a training plan for it. The things you need to get, how you want to reinforce it, and how you want to train it. If you want to get a book, if you want to get a curriculum, if you want to get something that will help you train, you better go and get it. So that by the time that you've done that one, maybe you use a whole term in your habit training to tackle that one, the child is becoming a better person. The child. So there was something that happened, like the most of my last born's 2-year-old, yeah, he would always defecate in his trousers. It's something I hate to clean poo. Honestly, I hate it. Start washing poo from not you're not just cleaning up a diaper. You are not washing poo from trousers. And he has already been potty trained and all that, but that thing just happened. It happened when I took him for summer school, because I was doing summer school. So in the place I was doing summer school, he was there, you know. And oh my God, it was so annoying. It was since September last year. Yeah. So he kept on doing that. So like over 6 months, he will always do that. 5, 6 months, he will always do that. And it was really annoying to me. Very, very, very annoying. But now I just kept my cool. And sometimes I'll just echo, God help me. God help me, oh, this boy, that I will see this thing through. I will not break out. I will not spank it, because sometimes you just hear one thought on one side. If you spank him thoroughly today, you will never see it again. It will just disappear. Bam. But I say no, I would not. Okay? I will not. And that was it. I would just keep on talking to him. Sometimes he will laugh about it. He would, So, but I just kept on, preaching to myself, and, what I'm telling you, I say it over to myself again and again. And what happened? He was 2. Yeah, like I say, he was 2 that period. So I keep on talking to him. Do you know, when he was turning 3, like a week to turning 3, because he got that consciousness, his brothers kept on telling, your birthday is in March, your birthday is in March. So when he was turning 3, guess what happened? He came to me one day and told me, Mom, 3-year-olds don't poo in their pants. So from today, no more poo in my pants. I use my potty. I say, I now called the dad. I say, come and see you. Come and hear this. Come and hear this for yourself. And we started clapping for him. Say, wonderful. And guess what? That's what happened. Immediately that day, do you know what happened? Self-discipline and understanding was produced. So when you keep on, now you might have got a compliant, that child, you beat that child fear. And sometimes those things, you go and cause another problem. Low self-esteem. One thing like that in the brain. You don't even know what you have caused. So, but in this instant, you can eat your cake and have it. Although it takes a little time. It takes a little, and some of us just want it now. So that's what happened. And I was like, oh my God, this thing works. So you want to be deliberate, train, and sometimes I will just take him to the toilet. I'll say, sit down with the potty there. Even when he has finished pooping, I'll say, sit down there. Just to train his mind and, like that. So I hope somebody has really had a paradigm shift. If you really believed in always smacking your children, punishing, ranting, and exploding and showing your emotions and all of that. Honestly, most of us were raised like that, and you must know that's your default programming. But now you're becoming more intentional. You're homeschooling your children. You don't want to be homeschooling your children still, but you are the negative influence on them. They're not going to school, but they have temper, they bully, because somebody in the environment is doing that. So you need to be careful, and you need to be really deliberate, and even very much deliberate about children's discipline. All right, so I'll see you in the WhatsApp group. Today marks the end of our training, and I am so excited. that we are going out loaded. You're going out with deep understanding about what you are going into. I'm telling you, this information that I gave you are priceless, and you want to treat them that way. You want to, go over it and start making actionable plan. Don't just leave it in your notes. You want to start doing, don't say, I will watch it tomorrow. Start making actionable plans so that when you're making those actionable, you can ask your questions. That's what I'm saying. So it's so important, because even if I give some people 1 year, they will still not watch the video. So it's at your own whatever. I know that when people say you have a limited time, people get more effective, and they want to really catch up. So please and please, let us maximize this period. All right, so bye bye.